Yo, Olia, good morning. Of course, I'm welcoming you to yet another show, another edition of a Richard Rant, and the morning being the best part of the day when you have just woken up. Nothing has gone bad. You haven't yet, done any of your contingencies. And today is one of those days that I am 100% true to my word. This day did not go as scheduled at all. I simply could not do what I thought I wanted to do. Ever feel like sometimes that there's a meeting like yourself is a business and there's a boardroom somewhere and there's the you that wants to do this and the you that really has control that doesn't always really say anything but it's like the majority shareholder. Yeah, well that jackass win today. Or maybe it's not jackass. Maybe that's the V2, the one that knows everything, that could see the forest, the trees, the dirt, the seeds, the breeze, the globe, the big picture. Yep. Either way, I'm here with you, and I thank you for having me in the first place. The newspaper was weird for me. I read three. It's been a long time since I was able to read three because I don't know, it was a little sadder than usual. Simpsons seem to have made quite a bit of money. And of course, I didn't read about one female dying, but about 50 men. One was a political leader, he was a father of three, and this one was highly suspicious, but I have absolutely no confidence that anything would come out of it because he has the wrong equipment. But he rented a car, but his car was there. So we could only assume that maybe he left the car home because he has a wife and three children. But he rented a car for one day and went to the cemetery where he was shot dead and stuffed in the trunk of that car. So I'm really not sure. My mind went to something sexy. Many people have sex in cemeteries because it's actually private. Who really goes in a cemetery? Many vagrants live in them as well, for the same reason. So, but then why the execution? And the article goes on to read how loved he was by his community and all of that. So, of course, there's no motive. I can't help but think that if he was a female, we would be having a bigger investigation, not to mention his political affiliation, and we would also maybe be having a candlelight something, vigil, something of that nature. Then, swiftly after that, I learned that traffic lights in three, let's say, cities, for simplicity, because the catchment area that the traffic light services three major junctions, very large, were vandalized. And I didn't understand anything in that article because it went on to say that yes, we, meaning the Ministry of Works and Transport, released that we are behind in our payments to contractors, but you don't turn off the traffic lights or manipulate them because you're behind in payments. So I have a million questions. Who own the traffic lights? First and foremost, what are these contracts? What do they cost? And of course, yes, we have the Freedom of Information Act, but I mean, the things that you could get up front just take forever and a day. The certificate of good character from the police is still on suspension at the time of this recording. Has been for months. So, far less getting that easily. And some YouTubers have tried to get information, including stuff that had to do with Panorama, which was the first boat, or at least one of the, I think it was the first boat between Trinidad and Tobago. I stand to be corrected, but it certainly has a legacy, was there long enough to be considered the boat. And how much it cost and how it was proven to not be seaworthy, yet still it is currently very much seaworthy in another country, completely refurbished and sexy. and for less of the cost that it has cost us to fix the sea bridge between the two islands. And for the boats that are there, of course, unearthing a whole conspiracy situation, which, at this point you really can't help but be receptive to. Is a concept to be easily seduced by because so many things don't quite make sense. That's all the article said. I had no idea who would be. I always assumed that it was some sort of a combination between the Ministry of Works and Transport and TN Tech. I mean, TN Tech does deal with the street lights, so I assumed they just deal with the electrical for the traffic lights, and somebody in the Ministry of Works and Transport division somewhere does program them and do the computer maintenance. But it seems as though they are behind in their payments. If it's just the maintenance, then they shouldn't be going down. You see, and you're not supposed to read an article, in my opinion, and have more questions and queries and concerns than before. Unless it's a Netflix special and you know it's gonna have another episode starting right over it, loading it, buffering. I have never seen a newspaper do that. So even if you want to say they're going to buy one tomorrow, there's no guarantee it's going to be there because it had nothing to say more in tomorrow's insert name of the newspaper here. So I don't know if it was a fluff piece, a bacchanal piece, a ploy to get readers, entertainment, a filler, or just shitty journalism. But that is all it say, we. That is all it say. And what was interesting is that they blamed it now on the vandals. Stealing the lines to the couple, that's a normal thing. It shouldn't be a normal thing. Though, it's unacceptable, but unfortunately, it's a regular occurrence. So these people that engage in this particular type of crime, they usually have their sources. Traffic lights are not on the main agenda, and if you look, why would they have chosen those three traffic lights? Is it that they live right next to the traffic light and it was convenient, so they just mosey on out and cut down a cable? Or could it be possible that these alleged contractors that own the lights or are owed money at least for whatever their business is with the lights would probably be hell of wealthy, like Junior Sammy, and maybe they pay somebody to fuck up the lights. I mean, it's just a theory here, but hey, not to mention at a time when the government has no money and things are constricting and all of that, maybe that's what went down, as opposed to somebody just wake up in the morning and just realize that it had copper in the traffic light again. That's, I don't know, that's basket and holding water for me. That basket and holding water at all, at all, at all. And then we went on and I saw these police officers holding what appeared to be these wreaths and bouquets. And I was thinking to myself, well, maybe it's really old people. Let me check the date to see. Because I'm thinking maybe it's Easter. It wasn't. It was weed. And I get bummy because I find it looks so neat and nice. I was wondering, well, where did I look like, they're going up in no forest or anything. Reading the article, a couple was growing weed in the house. They had the lights, they had the pigtail buckets, they had the fertilizer, they had $20,000 in cash and a couple tens of $1,000s worth of product. And what I see in there is entrepreneurship, but it is illegal. So is fireworks, by the way, but whatever loophole they jumping through. So these people didn't jump through the appropriate loophole, so they were caught. But my question is, the police not going to figure out who shot the guy in the head. The police not going to figure out most crimes, as a matter of fact. In this newspaper alone, we had 4 people that got shot over one of the weekend days. Then there was another person, 3 other people that got shot as well, and the rest were solved things, like it had teenager playing with guns shoot somebody, so the person basically holding the gun for the police, so those will be the solved crimes. But the ones where they actually need to inquire, I don't have any confidence whatsoever that they're actually going to find shit. So, how it is they reach down in the people's house? Is it a DSS situation where the police was on the payroll and they didn't get their cut? Or the people and them talk back? I find that some kind of excellent police work that is unprecedented, to say the least, given their track record. And I'm sorry for the couple, the entrepreneurs. Rowley had a beautiful speech, and I don't usually give him any compliments because he does upset my spirit. It's nothing personal against him, but he does upset my spirit. And I believe that he started upsetting my spirit when it is he needed heart surgery and he went to Cuba. I find that if it is you need to go Cuba to get your heart fixed, then when you come back, you need to pour everything you need to into our local health system so that you no longer feel the need to have more confidence in somebody else's, because your voters do have money to ups and go here, there, and everywhere, and we are paying NIS and health surcharge. So if something is wrong with our healthcare center, that you system, that you cannot get your heart fixed here, where we have all of these hospitals and facilities and free education and doctors and all of that, and we wasn't cut off from the US, so our economy was supposed to have grown and flourished, and we're the richest island in the Caribbean, or one of them, and we gave America $1 million in aid when it is Katrina had happened, for what I don't know. All of that. But Cuba, who was cut off for decades and had to struggle on their own and also have free education, you finding your ass up in Cuba to get your heart fixed. And I think that is from then he upset my spirit. But in this speech, he did not upset my spirit. He was humble, but right now he also have corona, so I don't know if it is he talking to Jesus when the night come in a very real way. Why it is this speech tone was different, but he talked about how it is having to do the best for the country, but he is very much interested in integrity and the truth. So regardless of your opinion, which he respects, normally it would stop with regardless of your opinion, but regardless of your opinion, which he respects, this is the information that he has, and this is the reason why he is making such and such decisions. And I honestly thought it was a Kamala speech, because he don't talk like that, especially not the DL Singh also doesn't talk like that. So I was amazed, and I greatly appreciate it. And then, but he was saying not to blame the Easter celebrations in Tobago for the COVID spike, because COVID was spiking before and it continued to spike in the communities that it was spiking before, so it didn't have a difference in the pattern. He also said that it's not 50,000 people that went to Tobago for Easter, it's 50,000 people that went to Tobago during that week. So it's not that they all went on vacation or anything, and that figure was not accurately compared to the amount of travelers on any other week to ascertain the spike that may have been vacationers or people taking advantage of the 4-day weekend. So I was impressed, to say the least. I was shocked and appalled, and I really think that he probably saw Jesus when he got those multiple corona positives. But then it was the Minister of National Security that said that, and he of Works and Transport, sorry, that said that. And Rowley is saying no, that information is not true. Then we have Fitzgerald Hines saying something different on another matter, that don't blame the Venezuelans or the porousness of the borders. Such eloquence to say that all this money only paying in national security, they still can't secure the fucking border. But the porousness of the border, has nothing to do with the spike in corona, and that is not the reason why it is we have the Brazilian chain right now. And then I'm wondering, why is it that we have all of these contradicting articles from the same government? Um, Ministry of Works, Ministry of National Security, the Prime Minister, and Ministry of Health contradicting each other. Do they not have a public relations situation? Do they not have their Zoom meetings in the morning to discuss their so-called united front? They are one political party. Why are they publicly having? It, am I expecting too much to expect them to be on the same page? And who exactly are they? Who they reporting to? Because if it is you working in a department and the owner asks your supervisor something and then asks you something and then asks the manager something and all of you all give different answers altogether and nothing adding up, then what we need an investigation or something, what we need a commission of inquiry, a vote of no confidence. You're trying to destabilize the economy. This is the beginning of something else. Everybody measuring and nobody actually working together but seeking their own agenda. What the hell's going on? And doesn't it have a ministry of communication? A whole ministry just to communicate with the public? Anyway, after that thought now, I stumble upon the fact that the Green Fund is giving $34 million to WASA project that was started almost a decade ago to adopt a river. Now, WASA's mandate is to maintain the Okay, so in this one, you would have noticed that I would have made some mistakes. I've always promised that I will do a rant high, and this is it. I'm actually proud that for the most part I'm competent because I usually fall asleep completely when I'm high. But so this is that rant. It wasn't predetermined to be a rant high. That's why it wasn't said at the beginning. It's just a coincidence where everything, fall into play. But yes, I am. My tongue is heavy, so I'll have to remember that in the future, if I use this sort of a functional high again, that I'll have a heavy tongue, and I'll have to use that for all of the advantages that it can bring to the table. Now, more than 10 years ago, or approximately 10 years ago, WASA started this Adopt a River to deal with the pollution of the waterways slash our actual water sources. And WASA's mandate is to maintain the delivery of water and the removal of sewage and treatment and disposal, proper disposal. So it's one of the few countries in the world where the same company that handles your drinking water also handles your wastewater, but I call it efficiency, and that's probably the only efficient thing about WASA. So it's understandable that they wouldn't really have jurisdiction over the rivers, but what happens in the river would affect them. So the concept isn't bad, but the suspicion is that in this corona time when people have not gotten their employment relief grants, people have not gotten gratuity, people apparently traffic light company not getting paid, or why or how is it possible that we have $34 million to give to a fund in which the accountability of said $34 million would be sketchy at best? I don't even want to think too much on that because it will just upset my spirit. And I don't think my spirit deserves to be upset. And then we went on and I read all of the horrible news in India and all these tens and thousands of people dying and corona. And I thought very naughty thoughts, and I'm going to share them with you, and I hope it doesn't offend you too much or at all. But India had a spike in corona after a religious festival. Is it that the deity upset with them? Did it smite them? Are they unclean? Is this punishment? But interestingly, they are blaming the government, not the deity that they were worshipping. And I find that not that they should blame the deity, but they should blame the damn self. They all adults. And I wonder, why is it that humans have such a difficult time accepting responsibility? Why do we need to be perfect? Why do so many of us get so beaten down when we make mistakes or when we plan to do something? Like, for example, how I planned to do something today and it didn't go the way that it was supposed to at all. So, you assess the situation, you look at the consequences for the mistakes that you made, you accept responsibility, and you do better or differently, or you would have made a new discovery. But what is the need to blame something or someone? Why? However, that story went on to talk about how first treatment facility burned to the ground because of negligence of the staff that caused an oxygen tank to set ablaze, creating what could only be described as volcanoes of fire. The persons on ventilators would have not really had time to escape, given the volume of the fire, the smoke, and their dependency on the ventilator, so they would have been compromised in minutes. And even the hospital's fire protection between the floors was compromised in less than 5 minutes. So many things stood out to me there. Apart from the negligence of the staff that the article blames, I'm also thinking negligence in building construction and manufacturing, because you would have known that, or should have prepared that, if you have ventilators on this floor, oxygen, or whatever have you going on in this building, that it would have the proper, you know, safety precautions, fittings, health and safety regulations, that kind of thing. However, it's solely on the staff, fine, that were probably overworked, the scapegoat, always the pawns in these bigger corporations game of chess. But what actually stood out to me, stayed out, huh? What actually did stand out. Oh my goodness, I'm loving this. What actually did stand out? Having a whole moment here. What actually stood out to me? I believe that all drugs, legal and illegal, I did a rant on this already. What they actually do is adjust the frequency in which you are able to perceive and process reality. So it's the only way that you could maybe experience life as with someone else's brain, as your brain is recalibrated because of whatever you took, be it legal or illegal. As such, for example, how some drugs have the side effect of paranoia, you will be experiencing what it's like to have a paranoid mind. Some drugs give you happiness and euphoria. You'll be experiencing what it's like to have an optimistic mind or pessimistic one, or to be sleepy or fatigued or whatever the drug gives to you. To simply be a person that doesn't experience all this pain, or a person with a higher threshold for pain. So I'm experiencing what it might be like to not have a full use of your tongue, to be at a loss for words sometimes, or to not have that excellent. I do like to give myself compliments for that excellent flow of vocabulary, and I do like it. I'm feeling like I should draw something instead. But I'm liking the experience because I know it's a ride and it will be temporary. And also because it's unexpected, so it's a new experience. Coming back to the volcanoes of fire in India, what also stood out to me is that relatives that were there were the persons attached to the ventilator. Many of them died because they refused to leave their loved one to die alone. That's beautiful to me. I don't know how many people would do that. I don't know if I would want someone to do that for me. because then you will die and maybe I would have wanted you to live on. But it depends, I guess, on the relationship. If it's a spouse, maybe I wouldn't mind. If it's a child, I might have an issue, you know. But either way, that was the only piece of good news that I got from the paper. Well, that and this is in the same vein whereby this young lady at the time, she's older now, she had brain cancer. They operate on the brain, they do the chemo, everything. They said, well, you're gonna just you had to live your best life, right? You now graduate to being measured by your own yardstick. And she was relegated to assisted living. I get relegated, but I mess up assisted. Anyway, to assisted living. And she overcame the odds and she was better and she came out and she was a functioning member of society. She went and she gets a whole man and then she gets sick again. And the gentleman stayed with her. They got married and she has tumors in her brain now and tumors in her stomach. And her quality of life is diminishing. He takes care of her full time and it seems like that's his purpose in life. And he has a catering company, but they need money to do surgeries and they have to go abroad as all of the doctors locally are pussies. They are declining because they're saying that it is very difficult to do that operation and the risk and that tumors are not cancerous. So, but of course she can function as a human being and I'm sure that she'll be motivated for the man that she loves, that she would have found love, that somebody loves her, cares about her, needs her, heart beats for her so much that there is nowhere else that they would rather be in spite of the difficulty of being in that situation. And should we all find that kind of love, but never have to put it to the test? So, thank you for tuning in to this edition of Richard's Rant, and I do thank you for adding me to your day. Subscribe to the vibe and comment towards our betterment. Please share with your friends, family, anyone else that you think may enjoy this production. And have a good morning. Vibes.